welcome. I'm the grumpy guy in the workshop. We are going to try and make a medallion in onshape using an object that you found online. So we will go online first and search for puppy. Now a lot of times we were searching for an object that's easy to cut. If you put the word icon after it, or silhouette, but no one can spell silhouette. So icon works really well. There, I like this puppy. Now, people try and save an image, but you can't really do that. What you can do is screen grab it using a combination of the power button up in the top corner and the little circle button on the front. If you press them at the same time, it takes a screen capture that you can then click on and crop. And the idea is to crop it as close as you can to the final image without losing any of the image. There, done. Save to photos. Now we have an image that we're able to trace in onshape. Now we're going to run onshape. Onshape, there it is. In this case, we're creating a new document, so I'm going to click on plus document. So I've made a new document. I'm going to name it create. It's going to create a new blank document in onshape. Now this is the basic interface. If you click one finger, you can drag around. 2 fingers, you can pinch and zoom and move it up and down. So I'm going to switch the little mouse so you can see what I'm clicking on. Everything in onshape is starting with a sketch, so we need to create a sketch. You do that with this little icon up here. Click. If you are currently in a sketch, then clicking on this icon brings up all of your sketch tools once you have selected a sketch. So the first thing it's going to ask you is select a plane. Where does this sketch exist? All you have to do is click on one of these planes. I'm clicking on the top plane. And now my sketch is on that top plane. I can also click on this button and it will kind of focus in on the top. And this gives me a bunch of tools I can use. But before I do that, I need to go down here to my little caret and go plus, import from photo library, and choose my puppy that I picked. Keep my current selection. Now, in a second, it will finish importing it, saying it's being imported. Now it's imported. So now if I go back to my sketch that I'm in here, go back to my tools, there's an option for insert image. If I click on insert image, I can then say, it says draw image rectangle. I need to make 2 dots, one in the top left corner and one in the bottom right corner of where we're going to be. I'm going to put one in this top left corner and one in this kind of bottom right corner, and then it draws our puppy. I'm going to slide this to the side so I can look at this and move it around and do whatever. For the moment, if it hasn't constrained to something, I can grab an edge and move it. This box in the middle is somewhere in the neighborhood of like 200 and something millimeters. So ideally what you'd want to do is scale this down, dimension tool, click on the side, and tell it hello. Dimension tool, and make it, if this is an earring, it might be like 35 millimeters, and it will scale everything down proportionally. Now, when you're done with getting your object in and around the right size, we can click tick. Now we have a object sketch of a puppy. If we make a new sketch by clicking the little sketch tool, it asks for a plane. We still want this to be the top plane, so we clicked on the top plane. It now gives us a bunch of options. What we're going to do is create the cut out layer. This is the layer around the puppy. We're going to do that with a spline tool. So if I click on spline, move this out of the way, I can zoom in. All I'm going to do is like a reverse connect the dots around the outside. I'm going to zoom in close enough that I don't have to worry about snapping. In this case, I'm going to go down the middle of my line, and I'm going to go all the way around the outside of this because this is what we're going to cut out. So if I click, you'll see it creates a little plus symbol right above my finger so you can see what's going on, because otherwise if it's beneath your finger you couldn't see it. With that, I can just click a bunch of little points. That it's a reverse connect the dots. It's going to try and make the smoothest line it can, connecting all these lines together. So it doesn't really matter where they are. If you put too many, it can get confused, but for now, we're just going to add to here, and I'm going to get to this point and stop. And you stop by turning the tool off, and now it turns blue. That means it's good. It also means if you undo, it'll undo back to this point. The reason I stopped is because I'm changing a hard direction. If I continued making dots, it would have just made a big jelly bean shape around here. And instead, I'm going to click and drag on to this point. Now I can continue drawing it to here. Now I'm going to turn this off and on again so I can make another hard corner. I'm going to try zooming out, going down this line. I'm going to let this one be kind of roundy, and I'm going to do the same here. Instead of making a new point, I'm just going to add a couple extra points so it's sort of sharp, but it's not going to stab your neck if this becomes an earring. Clicking the line around the outside, doop-de-doo, up to maybe here. Now this one, I definitely want to stop this one here and then start again because that is a hard turn. So I'm going to start by clicking on this point. The other one, it'll just ignore. And going around and around and around. This exciting yet? You can fast forward. You can take this time to subscribe to my web zone and go to Patreon and send me a coffee or something. I don't know. Going around here. Keep it going. This is not exciting, but useful information. And so I clicked once while I zoomed. I should be able to recover that point one time. If I click and I didn't mean to zoom, I can continue moving it around. Once you click a second time, you're now committed to that. Another point, another point. Boom. Now, this is now my rough puppy outline for my earring. So I'm going to tick my sketch and figure out, okay, that is sketch 1. If I rename it, this is going to be the pick, just so I know, just so you know, you don't have to do this part. I'm going to rename this one, and this is my cut layer. It's good if the kids can create cut and etch, because then we know what we're looking at afterwards. Then I want to create a new sketch. Why is that doing that? I want to create a new sketch on the, I can also click on this, on the front here, my spline tool. This is going to become my etch layer. I can move this out of the way. That means any of these details, instead of cutting all the way through, they are now just going to be etched in. So for example, this part of the puppy's face, it's every kid's instinct to then trace this when you're cutting, but you don't really want to cut a big gouge out of their face. So I'm going to look at this as just a simple line. Have I chosen the wrong face? I might have chosen the front. Yes, I did. So I'm going to change my plane. It shouldn't be on the front plane. I clicked the wrong one. It sliding over to delete. What I should have picked is my top plane, which is here. There, back to my spline tool. Now I should be able to click a point here, come down. I mean, this conceivably could be the same line. It doesn't really matter. This is going to be just a minor detail, but like this will be quite small by the time we're done with an earring. This is a case where I moved it. It clicked while I was moving, but I should be able to just click where I actually want it. Oh, and I failed. Right, this is a good time to show you the last recovery. If you have a big complicated line and you don't want to delete it all, what you can do is insert a point at the last place it was good. This was good here. Now once you have a point, you can choose your trim tool and trim away everything, and you see how it stops down here at the end of that line where my point was. Then I can go back to my spline tool, click on that, and continue on from there. I'm just roughing this because it doesn't really matter. Now at the end of a line, turn your tool off, turn it back on. And that allows me to go on to my next section. This won't take much longer, I promise. That should only take like 3 lines because it's a simple curve. That's a 4th line, which is not what I wanted. I'm just going to undo that because it would be faster just to draw 3 dots again. And now I'll turn that off. That was just me missing. Doing this point to that point. Notice how whenever it turns orange, it is snapping to a line. That's sometimes you want that, and sometimes you don't. That means those 2 points are logically, permanently connected together. Not permanently, but you got to take some work to do anything else with it. Now, oh, I need some eyes. Now with the eyes, I could do dots. I could hand trace it. This is an opportunity to use some of our other tools, like the center point circle tool. Center point circle tool, you click 1 dot in the middle and 1 dot on the outside, and it makes a perfect circle. Now notice these aren't perfect circles, but that would be how I'd make those as circular eyes. If I really wanted it to be ovals, I could either trace around it, or I could use my ellipse tool. The first dot is in the middle, the second dot is on the outside, and the third dot is on one of the other faces, so it ends up not one of the faces, one of the other edges. So it's creating the 3 dots that define an ellipse. So one in the middle, one kind of ideally at one of the extended vertexes, and then there. So you can see how that's closer to the shape than round. This down here is a weird shape that I'm just going to use my spline tool and clicking my, oh, that was a mistake. I can now undo. Yeah, thank you, I don't care. If you're drawing a whole bunch of lines and you make too complicated of a shape, you will end up eventually getting an error and it'll lose what you're doing. The best way around that, if you're trying to create something ridiculously complicated, is to periodically turn off your tool and turn it on again. And clickety, clickety, clickety. This video is probably not for kids. It's probably more for people that are supporting the kids. Although if a kid can understand this, that's awesome. And then, boom. So that kind of followed my puppy nose around. I've somehow undid to the point where I lost my puppy's eyeball. Easy enough just to do 3 points, one of them at the long end and one of them at the fat end. And there we go. Right. This is now conceivably ready to cut out and to etch, so I can turn off my picture layer and you can kind of see exactly what we're going to get. If I was making this as an earring, then what I'd want to do is go back into my cut layer, edit that, and I would add a little circle that was going to be a hole. If this was an earring, it would be something along the lines of that as a hole for a jump ring. And this was ready to send over to the laser cutter. Unfortunately, the iPads don't really have a good way to export to the laser cutter, so what we normally do is click on share, edit who's it being shared with. You'd add an individual. In this case, the individual is me. Tick, share, and you're essentially done. That's the overview of how to make an earring from a downloaded shape using Onshape. Awesome.